In the rain-soaked streets of Chicago, a detective breaks every rule to find his missing sister, only to be trapped in a deadly chess game against a criminal mastermind known as the Broker. Every move brings him closer to the truth and closer to losing everything. This isn't just a rescue, it's survival. The rain had been falling in Chicago for 3 straight days, soaking the streets in a cold, metallic sheen. At 20:17 a.m., the usually bustling Wabash Avenue was nearly silent, except for the faint hum of a black SUV idling near the curb. Inside, Detective Daniel Cross sipped lukewarm coffee, his eyes scanning the darkened shop fronts. Daniel wasn't supposed to be here. Technically, he was off duty. But ever since his younger sister, Lena, disappeared 3 months ago, he had been running his own quiet investigation. Off the books, under the radar. His lead tonight came from a desperate source, a street informant known only as Mikey Two Toes, who claimed he had seen Lena alive, being dragged into a warehouse near the old Wabash Bridge. At exactly 20:23, Mikey's rusted Ford truck rolled into view. The man stepped out, looking jittery, his eyes darting like a cornered rat. "You got the cash," Mikey hissed, his breath clouding in the cold air. Daniel tossed him a folded envelope. "Now talk." Mikey swallowed hard. "There's a new player in town. Calls himself the Broker. Doesn't run drugs, doesn't push guns. He deals in people. Rich clients, high demand. I've seen your sister. She's alive. But she's not alone." Daniel's stomach clenched. "Where?" Before Mikey could answer, a sudden screech split the night. A black motorcycle came out of nowhere, its rider dressed in all black. The bike swerved toward them. Daniel reached for his gun, but it was too late. The rider pulled a silenced pistol and pop. Pop, 2 shots cracked through the rain. Mikey collapsed, blood spilling onto the wet pavement. The bike roared away into the darkness. Daniel dropped to his knees beside Mikey, but the man was already gone. The only clue left behind was a folded card in Mikey's hand, white, embossed with a single black chess piece of rook. Daniel stared at it, heart pounding. He didn't know it yet, but that small card would pull him into one of the darkest criminal networks in the country. A network with rules like a chess game and consequences far deadlier. The morgue was quiet, the kind of silence that settled deep in your bones. Detective Daniel Cross stood in front of Mikey's lifeless body, the white sheet pulled halfway over his face. His mind replayed the scene on Wabash Avenue, Mikey's last breath, the cold rain, and that ominous rook card clutched in his dead fingers. He had been a cop for 12 years, but this felt personal. As he slipped the rook card into an evidence bag, a voice echoed behind him. "Working late again. Detective." Daniel turned to find Special Agent Olivia Hale from the FBI's Chicago field office. Tall, sharp-eyed, and known for her zero tolerance for sloppy work, she stepped into the room with her black trench coat, dripping rainwater onto the floor. "I hear you've been poking around in off-duty cases," she said, eyeing him. "Particularly one involving a certain missing person." Daniel clenched his jaw. "She's my sister." Olivia glanced at the evidence bag. "That card. It's a signature. We've been tracking the group that leaves them behind. They call themselves the Black Rook Syndicate, a trafficking network with deep pockets and international reach. The man at the top. They call him the Broker." Daniel's heart pounded. "Then you know where they're holding her." Olivia shook her head. "We know how they operate, but finding them is like chasing smoke. They run auctions, private, encrypted, moving from city to city. The Rook is an invitation for those who know how to read it." Before Daniel could ask more, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, and her expression shifted. "We just intercepted chatter. An auction's happening tonight, in an abandoned theater on the south side." Daniel didn't need convincing. 10 minutes later, they were speeding through the rain-slick streets in Olivia's black SUV, the city lights blurring past. The theater loomed like a corpse, its once bright marquee now a rusted skeleton. Inside, the air reeked of mold and cigarette smoke. A hidden door in the lobby led to the basement. where dim light spilled over rows of velvet chairs facing a small stage. Men and women in expensive suits sat scattered among them, sipping champagne. On stage, a man in a silver mask spoke into a microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's event. As always, the rook marks your loyalty, and the broker appreciates your continued investments." Daniel's blood boiled. He scanned the faces on stage as attendants brought out a line of people, blindfolded, hands bound. None of them were Lena. He reached for his phone to signal Olivia. But then the masked man's tone changed. "Our final arrival of the night is special. A personal delivery from our friends in Miami." Two guards emerged from backstage, dragging a woman between them. Her blindfold slipped just enough for Daniel to catch a glimpse. Long brown hair, a thin silver bracelet on her wrist. Lena, every muscle in his body tensed. He took one step forward, and a cold barrel pressed against the back of his head. A low voice whispered in his ear, "You want her back, detective. Then you'll play the broker's game." Daniel's pulse hammered in his ears. The cold steel of the gun didn't waver as the voice behind him continued. "Walk slowly." The armed man, face hidden under a black tactical mask, guided Daniel toward a side corridor. Out of the corner of his eye, Daniel saw Olivia, still across the room, pretending to mingle near the champagne table. She caught his gaze, and in the smallest motion nodded. She had seen Lena too. The guard shoved Daniel through a door into a small, dimly lit office. The air smelled faintly of cigar smoke and expensive cologne. Behind a desk sat a man in a tailored midnight blue suit, his salt and pepper hair slicked back, a gold watch glinting under the light. "Detective Cross," the man said smoothly, his voice carrying the kind of confidence that came from both money and danger. "I am the broker." Daniel stayed silent, jaw tight. The broker smiled faintly. "You're here for your sister, Noble." Predictable. "But you must understand, everything I do is part of the game. And the rook." He picked up a black rook chess piece from his desk and rolled it between his fingers. "Moves only with strategy." He leaned forward. "I will give you a chance to win her back. But in my world, chances have a price." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "What do you want?" The broker's smile widened. "A retrieval. There's an item I want back. One that a former associate decided to keep for himself. He's hiding in Detroit. Bring it to me within 48 hours. And your sister walks free. Fail." His gaze turned ice cold. "And she'll disappear forever." Daniel felt the trap closing in. "And if I refuse?" The broker tilted his head. "Then you'll watch her auctioned off to someone who will take her far from these shores. Somewhere you will never find her." Before Daniel could answer, the door burst open. Olivia stormed in, gun raised. "FBI, hands where I can see them." The broker didn't flinch. He simply pressed a button under his desk, and somewhere in the building, a muffled alarm began to wail. In the chaos, 2 masked guards grabbed Lena from the stage. Daniel lunged toward the door, but another guard slammed him into the wall. By the time he fought his way free, Lena was gone, taken through a side exit into the rainy night. Olivia fired a shot, grazing one of the guards, but the broker had vanished too. Daniel caught his breath, chest heaving. The only thing left on the desk was the black rook piece and a folded note: Detroit, Warehouse 47, 48 hours, tick-tock, by sunrise. Daniel and Olivia were on the road to Detroit, the highway stretching out like a gray ribbon under a cloud, heavy sky. Olivia gripped the steering wheel tightly. "You know this could be a setup." Daniel stared at the rook piece in his hand. "I don't care. If this is the only way to get her back, I'm playing his game." And neither of them noticed the black motorcycle trailing far behind, its rider's visor reflecting the first pale light of morning. The rain followed them to Detroit, slicking the cracked asphalt and turning the abandoned industrial district into a maze of shadows. Warehouse 47 stood at the far end of a desolate block, its windows blacked out, the corrugated metal doors tagged with faded graffiti. Daniel and Olivia parked 2 blocks away, gearing up in silence. Daniel loaded his Glock, his knuckles tight around the grip. Olivia checked her comms. "Once we're in, we have no backup," she warned. "We get the package, we get out." Daniel's jaw tightened. "And we find Lena." Inside. The warehouse smelled of rust and oil. Shafts of pale light from the cracked roof illuminated stacks of shipping crates. Somewhere deep in the building, faint music played, a scratchy jazz tune that didn't belong in a place like this. They moved cautiously between the crates until they reached the center of the warehouse. There, on a metal table under a single hanging bulb, sat a small black case. "This is too easy," Olivia whispered. Daniel approached the case, flipping the latches open. Inside lay a flash drive and a thick envelope stuffed with foreign currency. The moment he touched the drive, a voice echoed from above. "Detective Cross." "Agent Hale. Right on time." They looked up. The broker stood on a catwalk, hands resting casually on the railing. Around him, a dozen armed men emerged from the shadows, rifles trained on them. "You didn't really think I'd make this simple, did you?" The broker's smile was almost amused. "That drive contains something far more valuable than your sister. A ledger, names, accounts, and payments for every client who's ever purchased from my network. You bring it to me, and your sister lives. Or you give it to the FBI, and I vanish forever. Your choice." Daniel's mind raced. If he gave the broker the drive, Lena might live, but the network would continue. If he gave it to Olivia, Lena's life could be the cost. Olivia's eyes flicked toward him. "Don't do it, Daniel. We can take him down." Before he could decide, a gunshot split the air. One of the broker's men collapsed. The sound came from the far end of the warehouse, where a figure on a black motorcycle burst through the side door, firing with deadly precision. The armed men scattered, chaos erupting. Daniel grabbed the drive, shoving it into his jacket. He and Olivia sprinted toward the exit, the motorcycle weaving through the firefight toward them. The rider stopped just long enough to yank off their helmet, revealing Lena. Daniel froze. "Lena!" "What? How?" "No time," she shouted, tossing him a pistol. "The broker wants the drive because it's the only thing that can destroy him. I stole it from him months ago. That's why he took me." The broker roared from the catwalk. "Kill them!" Bullets tore through the air. Lena gunned the motorcycle forward, Daniel and Olivia diving behind crates for cover. With calculated precision, Lena drove straight at the loading dock door. Smashing it open, they sped out into the rain, the night swallowing the sound of gunfire behind them. Hours later, in a safe house outside the city, Lena explained everything. The broker has allies in law enforcement, politics, even the bureau. That's why you can't trust anyone. If we use the drive the wrong way, we'll be dead before sunrise. Daniel looked at the flash drive in his hand. The key to ending the broker's empire. Then we do it the right way. We go public. Olivia nodded slowly. If we leak this to every news outlet and agency at once, they can't bury it. The network falls. Lena smirked faintly. "You always did like impossible odds." The 2 days later, the ledger hit the news cycle like a bomb. Names, faces, and accounts plastered every major network. Raids swept across the country. The broker vanished. Some said he fled overseas. Others whispered he was still in the U.S., plotting revenge. Daniel knew one thing for sure. This wasn't over. The rook might have been toppled, but the game of chess had only just begun. The broker's empire had crumbled in the public eye, but in the shadows, his game was far from over. Daniel saved his sister, but he knew the war had only just begun. Because in this city, power doesn't vanish. It waits and strikes when you least expect it. The rook had fallen, but the next move, that belonged to the king.